close to San Miguel where we were doing the whole revival. And so one night when we were in church, he came and he loaded up all the stuff that she had brought down. The baby's bed, they didn't have nothing. All their clothes, nothing. He took everything. Well, someone had called us because we knew a lot of people around San Miguel and Paso Robles. And he drove, we saw him drive off with it. We got back, they called us at the church and we got there, but he was driving off with it. And we had taken the girls these little doll buggies, you know, that they used to have. And we was taking them that, and he even took them, had them tied on the back of the car, on the pickup. Well, he left with that. So the next morning, it was too late that night for her to go do anything. So she went to a lawyer, and he said, I tell you, the best thing for you to do is to get out of town, get out of state, he said. Not just town, but out of state. Well, we put her and the babies and my father-in-law on the train and sent them back to our parsonage in Oklahoma City. And then we hid her car in some of these friends out there that we had in their big barn they had. We put it in there till we held the revival. And then we came back, and this lady that was with us, her and I, our young person, she was just a teenager, she and I drove Eileen's car back, and my husband drove our car back. Well, we get back here, and she gets around, and she gets her a job and buys her a house down the street from the parsonage, and I keep the children, and she gets a job and goes to work. Well, one day he come back here and come by the house, and she let him see the children. But while she was feeding the baby in the high chair, he grabs the two older ones and takes off with them in the car. Well, of course, she come running down the street. She said, Mama, he's run off with my babies. He's run off with my babies. So we jumped in the car. We figured he was headed for Boonville, Arkansas. So we headed down there, and we got down there too late for to do anything that evening. But the next morning, we served papers on him, had the judge write us up papers, and he had to go and serve papers on him. So he couldn't run again, you know, with them. He'd have to stay there. Well, we had to go back to trial in a week, and we had to drive off and leave them two down there, and them standing on the front porch hollering, Mama, Mama, Mama. And she couldn't take them yet. So in a week, we went back down there to go to court, and the judge awarded them to my daughter, and he was to pay, you know, alimony or whatever you call it, child support on them. And he said, I'll not do it, her run around. Well, she never was one, you know, to run around. And he just knew what he did. And so anyway, we got in our car then. We was leaving from court. And he followed us out of town and had a gun. And he motioned my husband over. We didn't know he had the gun. Motioned him over, and we stopped. And he come back to our car, and then he went back to his car and got the gun out and started shooting at us. Well, he shot out our windshield and both side glasses, shot my husband through his arm, shot me back through here, and I've got a hole still, you know, a dent in the back of my head here, and shot us both. And a car had to come, or I think the Lord just sent that car. But anyway, came, and so he jumps in his car then and leaves. Well, we have to head back into Boonville and go to the hospital. And there she had them three and had both of us shot. And I didn't realize that I was shot until the second granddaughter of mine. She reached down on my shoulder and said, Mama, Grandma, here. And there was blood all over my shoulder. I didn't realize I had been shot through here. I didn't feel it. I was so excited because I was saying, Jesus, Jesus, if I've done anything to keep me out of heaven, forgive me. I knew I wanted to go to heaven. I didn't see any other way out. And my husband was just saying, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. And he finally got out of the car, though. And all we had was gravel. And he just picked up gravel trying to throw at him to get him to stop. And at one time, he had the gun back in on my head. And anyway, Eileen was telling him, said, please don't, please don't, please don't. And that's when that car came, and he didn't, so he got in his car. Well, we was going back in Boonville, and I realized my granddaughter showed me that the blood, you know, was draining down on my shoulder, that I'd got shot. So we got there, and she got us in the hospital. And, of course, at that time, you know, these hairdos that they have all up here, and the hairpiece in it, and a bunch of hairpins. Well, they had to take all them out before they could even x-ray my head. There was 3 of them working on my head. They got them out, and of course, my hair was just standing up. They said, Phyllis Diller. But every time my husband and we would pass each other, them taking x-rays and things and checking us. Well, he'd say, honey, are you all right? And I'd say, are you all right? But anyway, she had just too much. She just couldn't hardly take it. So anyway, she called these friends of ours that pastored at Stigler, and they come over and helped us, and then took us to their house. And, of course, the police, they checked our car to see if we had any guns or anything, you know, in our car. And, of course, we didn't have because we didn't think it was necessary. And we got to their place, and they released us from the hospital. And we couldn't leave, though, until we knew that they had picked him up. And it was all over the TV and radio down there in Arkansas. And so we stayed there at their place for a good while, and Eileen said, well, Daddy, I think I can drive us on home. Of course, there we were, no windshield, 2 glasses shot out, and glass all in the car and all in us, you know. So she called my mother and dad because they had Lisa, the baby. They had her. And so we didn't know but what maybe he might head to there. And so Eileen had called Mother and Daddy, and then, of course, the police come out to Mother and Daddy's. And Daddy was out there laying in the yard with his gun. He said if he had come, said, I don't have long to live anyway. I'll just blow his head off. He hurt me and my husband and his granddaughter and his 2 great-granddaughters, so he was upset. So when the police drove up, Daddy thought it was the police, and, of course, he didn't do anything. The police said, boy, said, I'm glad you wasn't after us. Because Daddy would have. He would have got him for good. So anyway, a lot of the church people came down to our house, their Mother and Daddy's, and met us there. And then when we got up to the parsonage in Oklahoma City, the whole church nearly was there in our parsonage waiting for us. And we got there, and after a while we told them, well, we thought we'd be all right, that we were going to go to bed and try to get some rest. Well, when I laid down, I went into shock. After all of it, I went into shock. And my husband, he didn't know, and he was shaking me like that and said, are you all right? Are you all right? Of course, he said my eyes just rolled back in my head. He thought I was dead. And he called one of the ladies in the church, and she came. She had him to quit shaking me. They got me to the hospital. They said it was a shock, and got me stabilized, so we got to go back home. But we kept our blinds closed, and the church people had a certain knock, you know, for our door, front door. And the police told us, said, if he steps up on your front porch, just mow him down. Well, we had a gun at the front door, and then we had one, there was a coat closet there by the door. And we had one up in there. But my husband said, I can't shoot him. I can't shoot him. Said, that's the kid's daddy. I can't do that. But he was back on our front step in a month. He got out in a month and was back on our porch. But we called the police, and the police got him picked up again and sent him back. Well, he only had to serve 1 year for that.
Oh, my goodness.
For attempted murder on all of us. And he told my daughter at one time, said, shut up, or said, you're going to be the next one. So, anyway, we got home, and that was about it, I guess. But we never did hear from him for a long, long time, and after he got out. But while he was in there, my husband wrote to him, and he kept, you know, calling us and everything for a while, but finally he just quit and gave up. So that's
Whatever happened to him?
Well, he got out in a year. He went on back to California.
So he's not around anymore?
He's not around here anymore, that I know of.
And your daughter and kids are grown
Yeah,
up?
yeah, they're all right. And then the one she had been married to before she passed away, he adopted the 3 girls. So then they had one together, so 4 girls, 4 granddaughters. So that's my story.
And you're sticking to it.
That's what I was just thinking.